And I made a promise to myself when I started writing. I was like, I will not write a sentence of this without like pleasure being behind it, without me actually enjoying the process of doing this. I will not be pressured for deadlines. I will change stuff if I need to, and I will get it done this time, enjoy, and with it, being really a meaningful project to me that I can look back on and not feel like, oh, remember that time in my life when I wrote the book? I'm never going to do that again.
Welcome back to another episode of Enthusiastically Spiritual. I'm your host, Theresa. So in the past 3+ years I've been having this podcast, I've had a handful of guests that have come back on and shared a little more about where they're at and some new things going on in their life. So this week I want to welcome back Theresa Lear-Levine. And let me tell you a little bit about her. Theresa battles with past traumas, high functioning anxiety, and ADHD trapped her in a recurring Groundhog Day of disease, distraction, and dissatisfaction. A transformative pivot came when exhaustion, insomnia, and the struggle to be present in her own abundantly blessed life broke her down. Driven to embrace life's potential and achieve aligned success, Theresa delved into decoding her nervous system, the law of attraction, and the subconscious mind. Through emotional freedom techniques, hypnotherapy, and a fresh perspective on energy and manifestation, Theresa swiftly shed negative emotions and expanded her consciousness. This restoration brought back calm, clarity, and confidence that became a foundation of her success. Her new book, Becoming More Me, Tapping into Success, Subconscious Secrets of an ADHD Entrepreneurial Mom, was born out of her passion to help other like-minded women on their quest to ditch anxiety, limiting beliefs, and past trauma. Readers are guided through reclaiming their power and stepping into a new paradigm rich in self-trust, groundedness, and uplifting beliefs that empower them to manifest their greatest dreams and desires. Let's join the conversation now. Welcome back, Theresa. I'm so excited you're here again.
Oh, I'm excited to be here, Theresa.
I mean, I cannot believe that you are back here on season 2, episode 41 in June of 2022. My God, has time flown or what?
I know. It seems like yesterday, and it also seems like it was a decade ago.
And I don't know about you, but for me, like even yesterday feels like about 10 years ago. So looking back,
Time is a liar.
I know, right? And it is getting faster and faster. It's so crazy. So looking back at June 22 and between now and then, it's been a whole lot of things going on. Can you definitely attest to that, Theresa?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So how about I want to dive into, your EFT and working with clients. And for myself, I've really recognized and noticed that really for myself, as well as others I've been working with and knowing around in my different communities I'm in, that we're all diving in deeper. Yeah, I mean, like it is like a deep dive right now for exploring, for really unearthing these areas of ourselves that might have hidden or might just be ready to kind of pop to the surface. Have
Yeah.
you noticed that with clients?
Yeah, I think everybody's looking to kind of dive deeper right now. And, I mean, maybe that's just the nature of my work. I'm going to naturally attract people that want to do a deeper dive because
Mhm.
I've never been one for small talk, and I genuinely like to know like the shadow, the light, the complexity of what's going on with people. So I think I've been seeing a lot more of that because that's kind of what I embody.
And what about for yourself? Have you noticed that also for yourself?
Yeah, I've been going deep on a lot of things in this last
You're like,
year and a half or whatever it's been since we last, connected on here. And, I think the process of writing a book brought a lot of things to the surface and caused a lot of introspection, a lot of reflection, a lot of my own unhealed wounds and things that just, were calling out to be addressed, to be looked at with fresh eyes.
Mm. Well, and I know for myself, having just published a book also that, and I didn't know this when I first started because I'm like, I'm never going to write a book. And then Spirit's like, yes, you are. I'm like, okay. That whenever you write a book, you really relive some of what's in the book, or you dive in deeper, or it pops up. And I'm like, oh, it was. So did you find that true for you also?
Absolutely. I mean, I guess having done things like EFT and hypnotherapy for a while, I feel like I'm reviewing, not reliving. I feel like I'm able to kind of pop into that, like that level of consciousness that's like, okay, it's impossible to relive anything that is past, not present. But the review was pretty hardcore. So, you
Mhm.
know, and Yeah, you start to, especially because, I know both of our books had a lot of kind of reviewing what happened over the course of our lives leading up to this point. And yeah, you have to kind of face the things that you're not super proud of the way you showed up for, the things that you do want to pat yourself on the back about, and find the way to make it all have meaning and purpose and things that are helpful to other people.
Absolutely. And I found too that it's that relatability. So the more raw and, and maybe the more real stories that we share, people can relate to them and go, wow, I've been through that. Teresa made it. Both of our names are Teresa made it through it. So, to me, that's what I really found is people were like, I can relate to, being for myself, there was a spiritual part. And then for you, really understanding aspects of diving in deep and coming out of those areas, which is what people are really looking for. So let's talk a little bit about your book, which is
Mhm.
called Becoming More Me, Tapping into Success, Subconscious Secrets of an ADHD Entrepreneurial Mom. Now
Yeah.
that's a mouthful too, Teresa. It's kind of like my book is also like really long too, but that's a really powerful title there, lady.
Thank you. Thank you. It emerged as I wrote it. I knew that the book was at least going to be called Becoming More Me. That's the name of my business. That's kind of, that's my feeling about everything that I'm doing and how I stumbled into it is that the work that I've been doing has made me become more of the woman I want to be in this world. And I hope it does the same for the people that I get to touch. And then as I really dove deeper into what I wanted to share, I realize at the heart of it, it really is the story of me as an ADHD entrepreneurial mom, the struggles, the way that, my family, my business, my parenting, all the layers really come together. And the mindset that I may have had 7 years or more ago, and the mindset that's evolved since then, and the ability to really work with my subconscious and my nervous system to change things in ways that anybody can replicate.
Right, because there's a lot of people these days that are ADHD or even going into like, other aspects of bipolar or on the
Sure.
spectrum. And I'm not saying that's ADHD, but
Sure.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of different variations of what people are really going through now.
Right, and I mean, it doesn't really even matter if you have ADHD because we live in a distracting world. So, I mean, you can be the most non-ADHD person and still find yourself incredibly distractible and needing a lot of the same things that people who are a little bit more neurodivergent need.
Absolutely. So the process of writing this book and really, coming forth with some of your stories, share a little bit about what your book has inside of it. Give us
Yeah.
some meat. What's the meaty part of this book, Teresa?
Well, I mean, I got very raw about actually the process of writing it, which I didn't realize was going to be part of it until I started writing. And then it was apparent to me that people who are in these shoes, you don't even have to be a writer or an aspiring author to have similar things happen when you go to begin a project or whatever else. I detail the craziness of the first day that I tried to write the book and like the several dozen things I did before I actually put pen to paper because that's how my mind works and it's how I process things. And I think other ADHD women will relate to both the way I was avoiding and also the way that I was organizing for myself. I go into the big pivot that I experienced about 7 years ago when my youngest son was born around that time, where I really started to get conscious about how the way I was doing my work wasn't fulfilling me in the way that I wanted it to, and how a lot of my lack mindset, my scarcity mindset, my negativity, which I was trying to cover over with positivity, like, as if that was going to work and it wasn't, how all of that needed to shift and change, and how I began doing that, and how that evolved also with emotional freedom techniques, nervous system regulation, hypnotherapy, and so forth. I have a lot of bonus materials in the book, actual hypnotherapy audios and EFT tapping rounds and downloadable things for time management and planning, like all sorts of things that come together in there. And I go back like really far in my past too. I talk about my divorce. I talk about, incidences that happened when I was a young child. I talk about the way my parents' beliefs shaped me. And all of it is from a perspective of my part in it. It's not about pointing fingers or making anybody wrong in this, but it's how we can take these beliefs and these ways that we've been subconsciously conditioned and we can rewrite the narrative. and change the entire, trajectory of our present and then our future, and really call our power back into the now, the only place we can use it.
Wow, I love that because that is so powerful with coming back to who we are. And it's really about us. So, all these people in our lives and the things that happened and the triggers and the concepts and beliefs, and like you're talking about your parents and the lineage, but it really comes back to how do I work with this right now and for my healing. So, I love that, Teresa, because that empowers women to understand that even though through your stories and what you've been through, you can make it. You can get through. There's tools, there's techniques, there's support from like you and your beautiful work
Yeah.
and podcasts and different things, but really understanding that, and it's okay. You're not crazy or weird or strange to go through different things that, you might have experienced through your life.
Yeah. And I don't know, I always find it very therapeutic at different stages of life to look back over our life and see what's changed, because the way I view my childhood as a woman now in her mid 40s is different than I might have viewed it in my 30s or my 20s. The perspective shift, just the way that, I've reframed along the way may not have healed everything yet, but it's always evolving. And that's why it is always, becoming more me. And we're always in progress with this. I make it very clear that my story is not a before and after story in any way, shape, or form, but it's in progress, because there's been all of these checkpoints along the way. Some things that, built up to a point where change needed to happen, and things that I was consciously trying to tweak and change throughout my life, but consciously I couldn't do it. I couldn't make the change from a conscious, logical, rational place. It had to be made from a deeper energetic subconscious place where I could actually change things.
I like what you just said about the fact that this is an ever evolving process, really. And that's what I say too. Till the last breath I take, I will be peeling off a layer. Like
Yeah.
it's just nonstop.
And then who knows what happens after that, right?
Right, exactly. To the next life or the next place or whatever. But I think that
We'll just keep
that's
learning
something.
lessons.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think that some of the fantasy, some people coming into, opening up and understanding more about who they are as a soul and the, the journey they're taking this lifetime is that it is unfolding really to the end and beyond. And it's not one
Yeah.
of these things where like, I'm ascended and I'm done. My
Right.
mom and I talk about that a lot, my husband, because we said like, wouldn't it be boring if like everything was utopia right now? I mean, not, we go through so many things, but it's like, that's not what we're here to do. We're here to really experience all of life, the good, the bad, the ugly. You find that true
Yeah.
too, Teresa?
Oh, yeah, I
Mhm.
completely believe we asked for this and we got it, you know? And here we are, and sometimes we wanna, like, kick the tires and be like, "This sucks." And other
Mhm.
times, we really get, like, that we're here for this deeper, grittier, larger than us kind of, evolution. And yeah, I'm here for it. I mean, I really do think that, we asked to be born into the families that we're part of. We wanted all of this. And, as a law of attraction coach, I truly believe in ask and it is given. And then, you just have to adjust everything that aligns with that in order to actually manifest it.
Yeah. And then also finding ways like, through the work you're doing to get through things, because that's
Mhm.
a key too, is like it can be real daunting. It can be overwhelming and fearful and filled with anxiety, like a lot of people are experiencing throughout life. I want to say right now and all we've been through, because really it's all of life. There's
Yeah.
always something happening. And so understanding that, that reality, it's okay. So how do I get through today? So I want to go back a little bit, Tracy, because I started this episode with saying that, you were on season 2, episode 41, which all the listeners and viewers on YouTube can go back and you guys can watch or listen. But I would like you to just share a little bit about how you got to where you're at right now. And so some of the, the viewers that might want to just hear a little bit right now about who you are.
Like bridging the gap between the last episode and now, or just in general?
Just kind of like your journey, like what brought you to EFT? And
Okay.
what is
Yeah.
EFT? So
Sure. Now, of
yeah,
course, like you said, the episode that we recorded previously, we went into depth about it. So I
yeah,
don't want to like share the same stuff and make it
yes,
repetitive.
yes.
But emotional freedom techniques is what EFT stands
Mhm.
for. And it's a form of nervous system regulation where you can basically resolve anything that is a dis-ease for you, whether that's emotional, physical, spiritual, all sorts
Mhm.
of things. If you can feel it, you can effectively treat it, scientifically proven and backed. And it uses meridian points in our body, same spots that you'd use for, deep tissue massage or
Mhm.
acupuncture, and modern day psychology. And it's one of those things where I had heard about it for a while. It's been around in the way that we know it as emotional freedom technique since
Mhm.
the 90s. So it's not new. And obviously it stems from things that are thousands of years old. But as a mom raising kids and just wanting to feel more energy, be more focused, get more done, and sleep through the night, I'd see it used with war veterans or Olympic athletes or things like that. And I was like, no way. Like, this is not my technique. This does not apply to me. And I dismiss it. And I ended up at this retreat as at the time I was in like health, nutrition, and fitness coaching. That was kind of my target that I was working with there. The women that I was working with were wanting to make changes mostly physically. And we went to this retreat and they brought in an EFT tapping coach and she worked with us as a group on anxiety. But as we were doing the tapping as a group on anxiety, and I was super sick, this was like right before COVID started, 99.9% sure I had COVID, but it was like February and it was like, nobody really was talking about it yet. We didn't really know. And so I got sick on the way to the retreat. Otherwise I wouldn't have gone. And I felt awful. Tapping on anxiety as a group, my anxiety was feeling way better because I had plenty of it and it was going down, down, down. And I was also noticing that simultaneously, my head was clearing and my throat felt better and my physical energy was lifting. And I was like, holy cow, like this technique has this really cool thing called borrowed benefits, where because it lowers your stress hormones, because it lowers your cortisol, because it goes right to your amygdala where that fight or flight response is happening, everything just kind of gets the benefit of you working on one thing. So working on anxiety, getting benefits for the health symptoms. And I went home from that retreat and I must have just blabbered for hours to my husband about this. Like, we tapped on stuff and we talked and I felt better. And like, I must have sounded like a loon. And he listened to and soaked every bit of it up. And then he was like, great, sign up, become a master practitioner, and I was like, okay. Well, next day I did. Like, he fully supported me, believed in me, despite, not understanding, I don't think, a word of what I told him.
Right.
And that was how I shifted into emotional freedom techniques. I had already been involved with, things regarding like hypnotherapy and things, and I've gotten advanced certifications in that since also. But yeah, it was such a pivot point for me because I knew I wanted to help people on a deeper level. I knew that I was not feeling as purposefully aligned with nutrition and fitness coaching as I once had, because it got to the point where I knew what needed to happen to help people. And a lot of people weren't willing to do it. They just wanted a workout or something to eat or a menu plan or something like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much more here, people. And I just wanted to like work in a deeper way. And this opened up the doors to that and allowed me to start, working with business coaching, working with, entrepreneurs' visions, working with all the things. It's amazing. I love the different conundrums that get brought to me with my clients because they're all super, ambitious and interested in change and growing. And we get to apply this in so many different ways.
And I love your book too, because the entrepreneurial part, like where there's so many of us now that are entrepreneurials or self-employed or from COVID staying home and not going back to
Yeah.
the office. So have you found that this has been something that is that why you really kind of wrote the book, because of the fact that this is where we're all at, like a lot of entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've worked from home since my 20s. And that I go into in the book too, because I had these car accidents that put me out of work while I was actually still in college. And that led to my different scarcity and money blocks, all sorts of different things. There's a whole rabbit hole there. But since that time, I had always done, home-based businesses and things. And once I started having kids, I knew there was no other way I really wanted to work because I wanted to be there. There was that tug of like wanting to be the mom that's there for everything and also wanting to have something to call my own. And that's kind of how that evolved. And even when I was doing nutrition and health coaching and things, that was all virtual too. So for me, the virtual model has always worked out well, especially for an ADHD person. Like, I always think that I can just teleport myself to places and be there on time. So with Zoom, you kind of can. Like, you can actually, it can be, you know, 3 p.m. and you have a 3 p.m. meeting and you just, hey, I'm there. I'm
Right.
there. I'm not late. I'm not.
Yes.
And that works really well for me because I have a tendency for physical appointments where I actually have to travel to really have to reverse engineer my day. I'm not chronically late anymore, but I've figured out the planning and the ways to slow down, to manage my time and to work that out. So yes, the virtual model works very well for me. And I feel like yeah, there's a lot of other entrepreneurs that like both working virtually and also like being coached virtually because, we're busy and we don't have, whether it's a half an hour, however long it would take you to drive to see a coach, a therapist, a doctor. If you can just do it from home, then you can just keep going with your day.
That's so exciting. And I love the fact that you started doing this a long time ago because I've met other women who have been doing some online stuff. And then of course, as we've gotten more and more with it, more online stuff. But yeah, like you're kind of one of the forefront runners, like, hey, I've been doing this since my 20s and look where I'm at now.
Yep, it's always worked really well for me. But don't get me wrong, I love seeing people in person. I love it when I get to actually meet my clients in the flesh.
Mm,
And it's great when you can have like hands-on experiences with this kind of stuff. But in the
absolutely.
meantime, as I raise four boys and have a very busy life at home, this is how it works best and how I can best model what doing work like this and being an ADHD entrepreneur looks like without burning out, without
Mm,
sacrificing the things that mean things to me that are meaningful that I'm trying to grow. And that's really the important thing. I put a big emphasis as I wrote this book on pleasure because I think as women, we back burner that like crazy. And it is gold, it is fuel, it is fire, it is everything. And, as I began writing it this spring, which I chuckled because I began writing it the spring before and the spring before that also.
yes.
Um,
Takes a
but this
while.
time I knew like I had my coaching team for me
Mhm.
to help coach me through the process in place. And I also made sure that I was enrolled in programs that supported like my pleasure, my happiness, and things like that, because I needed to make sure I was getting that infusion on a weekly basis as I wrote, because that would help me to create that lens to produce what I wanted to produce through. And I made a promise to myself when I started writing. I was like, I will not write a sentence of this without like pleasure being behind it, without me actually enjoying the process of doing this. I will not be pressured for deadlines. I will change stuff if I need to, and I will get it done this time, enjoy, and with it, being really a meaningful project to me that I can look back on and not feel like, oh, remember that time in my life when I wrote the book? I'm never going to do that again. Like I will
There is
say,
that.
yeah, I'm not rushing to write the second one, but I do think there's probably another one in me that will want to be birthed at some point. But I knew I would never do it again if it was an awful process.
But gosh, Teresa, adding that pleasure and fun, because I know for myself, I wouldn't say I'm ADHD, but there's been times where, well, I used to work for a psychiatrist and he goes, you're manic. So, okay, there were times when I've been manic, right? And having that fun and that time to like have downtime and integrate, because that's what I've missed for
Mhm.
years is I just was go, 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 go. And then
Yeah.
then I would burn out or I would have autoimmune disease or psoriasis or something because I just kept kicking it completely. And so now I take as much time like you. I mean, there's the fun, the pleasure. Has to balance it out because you can't just keep going. There has to be some downtime and some time for
Yeah.
fun. And that's what we're here to do too. Not only process till we're dead, but, but
Well,
have fun while we're doing it.
yeah, that was another big thing for me because while, my book title has ADHD in it, high functioning anxiety is my other like thing that I kind of battled and allowed to kind of run the show for me for a while. And that was that feeling of being, a captive to my to-do list and finding my value in how hard I worked, how long I worked, how much I did, and learning to slow down. I mean, slow and pleasure go hand in hand, and there's not a whole lot of things that aren't better when we do them a little slower. So that's been a big lesson for me to learn over the last few years is that I can do less, I can be more, and I can actually accomplish things faster through this lens than the way that I would self-critically beat myself up, the way that I would really be a harsh critic to myself and judge myself and all that kind of stuff through the process. So being able to let go of that, of which the tools I use are amazing for because they cultivate love, acceptance, and forgiveness for whatever we apply them to, that was really key for me because I felt like, when am I ever going to get to the point where I do get to have pleasure and enjoy myself in this life? If I'm always trying to get there, knowing that we never actually get there, we're always here.
Absolutely. And that's big. And I think also the point of like how we've all been made to come home the last couple of years with the, the pandemic, and really coming back to ourselves and having that space and that time when, I mean, a lot of us couldn't do anything, right? I mean, there
Yeah,
wasn't, everyone was either sick or this or that, or you can't connect. And so it's like, yeah, giving space, having fun and pleasure is key. Cause I like what you said. I mean, it also goes back to that love, which is what we're really here to be an expression of in
mhm,
whatever variation and whatever uniqueness we all have. But being that expression, how do we get there? By having fun and enjoying life.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You know,
So
we
I'm on
never
board,
know how much
girlfriend.
more we get, and we might as well enjoy the moment that we're in. And I think that when
Exactly.
we set that intention and we set that frequency and that vibration, nothing but good can come from it.
Absolutely, Teresa. So, in looking back at this conversation, I would like to ask you one final thing is there anything, a question that I might have missed, or you might say, I'd really like to share the answer to this question, Teresa?
Oh my goodness. I feel like we had a pretty complete conversation.
Well, I like that too.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, for me, the big takeaway that I love for people to get when I listen to anything that I'm contributing is that, there's so many ways to get your hands on and do these things. Like if you've never actually regulated your own nervous system, if you've never actually experienced hypnotherapy, I've got, amazing free resources for all of these things. It's one thing to hear it, but when you hear it and you listen to us talk about it, you're getting it on that conscious level. And you can make sense of the fact that we're talking about something that works and you could probably apply it to your life and maybe there would be a difference, but it's a totally different thing to actually get your hands on, get into doing it and feel that energetic shift that happens when you do that, to really feel yourself drop out of your conscious mind and allow things to be rewritten for you and just gain that new perspective that can happen so quickly when you try these new things. So I guess that would be the thing, is that if you've never tried these things, grab some resources. I mean, gosh, you and I did tapping last time when I was on your show. We did a round on tapping for blocks and resistance to spiritual growth that was really well received and is still part of my private sessions resource. And we're going to add another session to it today. And it's crazy to think, because I know there was probably only like a dozen or so in there when we first did that one last year. There's almost 60 sessions in that resource now. It's an insane
Wow.
value. So for anybody who's never tried EFT, 60 different ways that you could apply this to your life, all with, personalized tips and, guidance and all sorts of bonus material in there. So that would be the one thing that I'd want to make sure people walk away knowing, is that there's a lot of ways to get your hands on and try this.
Absolutely awesome, Teresa. Well, I really, as a new publisher to a new publisher, I want to just congratulate you so much, because I know it's a process. I know it's part of us. I know it's part of you. I know it's it's our blood, sweat, and tears, right? So
Yeah.
congratulations on your new book, Becoming More Me, Tapping into Success, Subconscious Secrets of an ADHD Entrepreneurial Mom. Thanks, everyone, for listening in to another episode of Enthusiastically Spiritual. And a big thanks to Theresa Lear-Levine for coming on again and sharing beautiful wisdom, sharing about her new book, Becoming More Me, Tapping into Success, Subconscious Secrets of an ADHD Entrepreneurial Mom. And also, please make sure that you check out the link below, which will take you to find that book, as well as the tapping session that she and I did after we stopped this recording. It is a great one. I think you'll get some awesome tapping and some insights for yourself with it. So make sure you check that out below. And she's got a whole bunch of other resources of tapping that you can check out too. And so if you like this episode, please make sure you hit like. Please leave a review if you are on Apple Podcasts. Also, please subscribe. And if you found this interesting or another episode interesting, please make sure that you share with your friends and family. And until next week, please remember that life is too short to not be enthusiastic about your unique journey.